Baseball's next teenage superstar has arrived in Connor Griffin, and the injured list is already swallowing some of the game's biggest names. Joe Adell has turned right field into his personal highlight reel, and the 2026 season is already delivering chaos, stars, and statement moments.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way, you can't hit it. Know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk it back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
Thank y'all for tuning in to Back to the Bullpen, brought to you by the Locked On Network. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And let me bring in my partner in crime, the man to my right or your left, however you're looking at the computer, Mike Stanton, the old 2-9er. Man, 2 decades on the mic and on the camera between us. And I mean, the baseball weekend was fun. Easter weekend was here. How are you doing? How was your weekend?
Hey, my weekend was great. There was some great baseball being played, but I hope everyone had a happy and safe Easter. And everyone, all of us Christians, we need to know exactly what Easter was for. So happy Resurrection Weekend.
That's right.
But we're here to talk about baseball. And one of the reasons why we have to pay attention to what everything is going on is because you never know when somebody is going to have a great day. Joe Adell had quite possibly one of the best defensive games maybe in the history of the game.
Oh, I mean, look, and this is a guy, Mike, that when he came up, the hype was real. He was a hot prospect. And as you know, in your 19 years, not only with your trek to the major leagues, but you being on the teams with like several players being prospects.
Sure.
Prospects don't always pan out. Some guys take longer than others to come along. And I think Joe Adell, coming off a 37 home run season, he was already cementing his place with this Angels organization. And when you rob 3 home runs in one game in a 1-0 win, that is a statement game when it comes to defense.
Well, we have to do a little bit of a background here because when he did come up, he was going to, they always thought he was going to hit. The question was, what was his defense going to look like? And he was terrible. I'm just going to have to be completely honest. He was terrible in the outfield. And now he has done a lot of work to get better. And this game, what this game can do for him more than anything else, it can build his confidence defensively and make him into maybe the all-around player that a lot of Angels front office folks and a lot of Angels fans think he can be. The first home run actually started, it was the second batter of the game. And right field. Now, first thing we have to talk about is Angels Stadium now. When I was playing, and even after I was playing, you actually had to hit the ball into the seats to hit a home run. Now they've actually lowered the wall, and I think it's probably 7, maybe 8 feet tall. There's a slight gap between the wall and the scoreboard, where the stands are going to be, because the stands are way up high.
Right.
So you can rob home runs. And then the first one, Cal Raleigh, who hit 60-plus home runs last year, it was going to be his first home run. Adell goes up, and he brings that one back in. It was a good catch. It was good concentration. It was good timing. It wasn't necessarily a great catch because he got there in plenty of time. The second catch was almost identical. It was Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor, we know that what Josh can do. Josh likes to stand, and he likes to have the look at me moment at the plate when he hits a ball and he thinks it's going out of the park. It was kind of sort of almost identical play. Now, this was the 8th inning. The big one was in the 9th. And it was J.P. Crawford. He hits a ball not straightaway right field where Adell could just get to the wall and go get it. It was actually right down the right field line where there's a very short fence. The fence actually comes in. It's not very far right down the line, and then it jets out very quickly to get to the to the straightaway right field wall. But this one, he doesn't have time to time it. He gets there about the time the ball is coming down. He leaps. He goes into the stands. He catches the ball, and then he disappears. Everybody is just quiet, and the glove. You see the glove stick up. The ball's in the glove. He stands up. 3 robbed home runs in one game, and to say that these were game savers, they won the game 1-0. So this was a situation. This wasn't
exactly.
a situation that these were just meaningless runs. No, these actually saved the game for the Angels. Win to 1-0, and Adell with 3 robbed home runs. Absolutely amazing.
And one of the things that I was questioning when I was going through the highlight reel for this game is he tumbles over the wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, isn't that still a home run? Because even the announcer goes, well, it's a home run. Well, no, they're calling him out.
Yeah.
And I had to look up the rule, and it's
rule
like
states,
5.203. You literally, if you catch the ball and you go into out of bounds or over the fence, it is a home run. But you have to have that control.
You have to have control of the ball and control of the glove. So if the glove falls off, the ball in it, then it's a home run because now you're not in control of the ball. But yeah, he and the question is if he stays down there, he's fumbling, something like that. He didn't do that. It was just a matter of just a split second. You see the glove stick up, the ball's in the glove. I mean,
and he was fired up.
He was, and rightly so. I mean, listen, you have guys like Torrey Hunter who used to rob home runs. I'm going to say pretty consistently, but we're talking about 1 or 2, maybe 3 a season, not 3 in a game. I mean, this was truly remarkable, and it shows the work that Adell has actually done defensively.
Well, I will say this: on Sunday, the Mariners actually did hit a home run that Joe Adell did not catch, but they still lost. The Angels beat the Mariners 8-7.
Yeah.
And so on the early season, the Mariners are sub 500. The Angels are 500. I think that probably flips, in the end, but
sure.
There are a lot of teams that are dealing with various things. And right now, we just got news, 2 pitchers, one I think of greater importance because of where he sits in the rotation. The other one, I think, just significant, historically speaking. And let's start with Hunter Brown from the Houston Astros. Dana Brown and the Astros announced that he's going on the 15-day IL. And now his last start, a lot of people were questioning, well, why did he get pulled after so long? Why did they not let him go longer?
Right.
And this was not a result of him throwing in that second game because he had allowed the fewest runs and had some of those strikeouts, but it was because of a throwing session he did on Friday. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so what happened in game 1, he throws 102 pitches in I think 4 2/3. So there was a lot of stress there. There was a lot of balls. He did strike out 9. In game 2, in his second start, he only throws 79 pitches, but he was in the 7th inning. He was actually very efficient with his pitch count. So, and they were winning 8-1 when he came out. So yeah, why not get him out? He's not going to go a complete game anyways. And then in his throwing session, in his, they didn't say it was in his bullpen, but it was in his throwing program. Some guys have different programs. Maybe they don't throw bullpens all the time. Maybe they long toss. Maybe they do flat grounds. There's all kinds of different ways that pitchers throw and get their work in. And it was during that session that he started feeling a little something in his shoulder. And, he comes down. They diagnose it as, I believe, a minor right shoulder strain. And he goes on the IL. This is a big blow just because the Astros have gotten off to a hot start. They've pitched very well. They've swung the bat exceptionally well, except for the first 2 games of the year. So it's whenever you lose your ace, it's a blow to the team. It's a blow to the confidence that the whole team will have in their rotation, because you need your big dog at the top.
That's right.
We're not sure how long it's going to be. It's going to take a little more time to figure out exactly how severe this injury is, and then how long the time frame is going to be.
Right.
But you have to remember, you're talking about, we're in the middle of the second week of the season.
Exactly.
This is not something you're going to push.
No, exactly. They did announce Cody Bolton will be making the start in Colorado, as he was supposed to be starting in the game on Monday. But what I want to do in our second segment is we're going to talk about Justin Verlander. We're also going to talk about Mookie Betts hitting the IL and the implications of both of those players and how that affects those teams. All right, I want to tell you all about our friends at Game Time. Game Time is here. They have the best app when it comes to buying tickets. Now, what is the issue with getting tickets? So many times you have the grind of long queues, surprise fees, and prices jumping at checkout. Well, you don't have that with Game Time. I use Game Time, and I don't promote products that I don't use and I don't believe in. Game Time app gives fans the advantage. I'm a fan. You're a fan. Why wouldn't you want that constant innovation where you can unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps? It's simple to use. Game Time guarantee means that you get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. The fees are included in the price you see. So what you see is what you pay. And I mean, that is a great deal for everyone around. They also give you seat views. They give you zone deals where you pick the zone, or I can pick the zone, and then they pick the seats. You can also follow your favorite team, and you can get alerts when new deals drop. And 2 taps, you're done. No stress, no hidden fees, just great seats and minutes. And that's what makes it so easy to decide last minute. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets for MLB and use Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use a code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time. Download the app today. And don't forget that we are giving you, and I am giving you, a really cool deal with the Everydayer Club. Why? Because we want to celebrate baseball being back, and you can go to lockedonsports.com/everydayer and use the code FINALLY. You'll unlock every episode ad-free, get access to private listener group chat, and tap the link in the show notes below. If you use the code word FINALLY, you'll get your first month free. Check that out. All right, Mike, like we love to talk about on this show, the entire league. We don't like going over players that are hurt, but Justin Verlander was set to make a pretty important start, especially in Detroit Tigers history. Yeah. Let's talk about that. And then Mookie Betts, a pretty big name in LA, goes down as well.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about injuries, but we have to talk about them because it's one of the main problems that teams all the way across the league have, and a lot of times it determines on who plays well and who doesn't. Just making sure your thoroughbreds stay on the field. And Justin Verlander, who's not a top of the rotation starter anymore, but was the biggest name, going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he gets there. He is probably a pretty integral part of the back end of that rotation for the Tigers. And he's having a little bit of a hip issue. And knowing Justin Verlander the way both of us do, he wasn't going to make an excuse in that first start where he did not pitch well. And to tell you the truth, from what we understand, it's actually been getting better, but again, you're in the second week of the season. You're not going to push this. You're not going to have him go, because he actually said, if we actually needed to, I could have gone out there and started. But AJ Hinch said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to push you. You're 43 years old. So it's actually still feeling better each day, but they went ahead to put him on the IL so that he can get completely healed and then get back on the field.
Well, and the big thing about this, I think the big leading story is first home start since 2017, Sunday Night Baseball. ticket package, welcome home promo night.
Right.
And look, Justin Verlander did address this when he talked to the media. He said, I hate it. I hate that people spend their hard-earned money to come see me, to come see this. I've talked to the club. I think they're going to try to do something to make it right. Maybe they kind of revisit this when he comes back and he's back healthy. So I think the Tigers will probably make that right, because this
they
probably
will
upset a lot of
I mean,
people.
they turned it into a premier game. That's what they really did. So they, this wasn't a situation. This wasn't just a, opening series, homestand start. The last time Tigers fans saw Justin Verlander in a Tigers uniform on that mound was in the World Series. Where I think he pitched 8 innings against the LA Dodgers in the World Series. So it was, it was a memorable last start. So he feels really bad that he wasn't able to go out there. But you know what? These fans don't want him to go out there when he's not 100% anyways. They want to win. They want to win baseball games. So it was the right call. And it does sound like the Tigers are going to step up, and I don't know, it's refunds or maybe some kind of, who knows what they're going to do to kind of make this right. Now, the other side of this, I just mentioned the Dodgers, is Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts went down over the weekend with an oblique strain, and people need to understand, as big and strong, well, Mookie's not a big guy, but he's a strong guy. These major league players, an oblique injury is one of the worst you can have, because you cannot do anything when you have it's a core injury. You cannot do anything when you have a core injury. And when I mean that, I mean you can't throw, you can't hit, you can't try and stay in shape. You have to just sit.
Yeah, everything you do hinges on that.
That's right. Including getting up, tying your shoes, doing just the most menial things in your daily life, much less, swing a bat trying to drop bombs in the big leagues.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the LA Dodgers are kind of, they're on top of their game, 7-2. They have a plus 20 run differential going into Monday's series with the Blue Jays. But, to lose someone like Mookie Betts is still tough. But, it's funny. I bet you, not that opposing fan bases are wishing players to go on the IL stint, but I'm pretty sure they're like, yeah, but don't they have like 8,000 other players that can do this? I mean, didn't they just pay Kyle Tucker $60 million, because they have kind of become the evil empire, I think, especially of the West. But you definitely never want to hear about players going down. But, IL stints, injuries, that is all part of the game. And, people say, well, why is it 162 games? Why isn't it just 80 games or 110? It's like, well, the fewer games you had, then you had all these injuries, that would really mess things up. Can you imagine if you only had 80 games and then you had 15-day IL stints and you had 10-day, you had all these, you would probably not get much accomplished. And that's why you have a long season. It does give guys a chance to rest. It does give guys a chance to recover and come back. So I guess the devil's in the details.
What it takes out is the luck, or at least some of the luck. That everyone is going to there's never been a team that has not had an injury and get through a 6-month, 162 game schedule. So everybody has to put up with it, and some teams put up with it more than others. And the Dodgers they even though they won the World Series last year, we've talked about it many times. It wasn't that they were the juggernaut that some people that haven't looked at the details think they were. They weren't. There was a time last year late in the season we weren't even sure if they were going to make the playoffs. Mookie Betts is a big part of this team. Even though he had a down season last year, you're talking about your starting shortstop.
Yeah.
And so, are they going to be able to cover for it? Well, if they can't, they're going to be in big trouble, just simply because, he is just one of the many MVP superstars that are on this team. So they can cover for it, but it's still a big blow when you lose your starting shortstop. They don't really know what the time frame is. It's going to take a little, with an oblique injury, it takes a few days, maybe a week, before you get a real handle on how it's feeling and how it's healing. So they don't know exactly what the time frame is going to be for his return.
Yeah, and then coming back, you got to do recovery stuff. You got to test.
Well, since you can't do anything once you're healthy again, now I got to get back in baseball shape. So it does take a little longer. Now, if this is
Right.
if it's mild and it only gives Mookie keeps himself in great shape, so that definitely helps. But if it's a long stint, if it takes a long time for this thing to heal, there's got to be some ramping up of the baseball activity. There's probably going to be a minor league assignment, but we'll have to see what the timing of this is because no one really knows right now.
Right, exactly. In our last segment, we're going to hit on Connor Griffin, the super kid in baseball, and Minnesota had an interesting home opener. I would say it was kind of one of those lights out situations. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in to Back to the Bullpen. I want to tell y'all about our friends at TurboTax. Look, baseball is inevitable. It's here every season. So are taxes. And taxes, look, it's just tough because you and I both know how difficult it can be to find the right person to help you out. Like, do they know your situation? Are you going to have to get a meeting scheduled with the tax person that is not going to be convenient for you? Then sit in their office for hours with a stack of papers, wondering if they got your email, if they got your call, back and forth. It's just so much chaos. But this year, we're giving you a major upgrade with Intuit TurboTax. They have you covered. Why? Because they have in-person locations nationwide. You meet face-to-face with a real tax person and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. That's right. They let you know your TurboTax expert gets you every dollar that you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's a relief knowing you can walk in and meet a real person and walk out knowing your taxes are being handled right. So head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. All right, Mike, let's talk about it. We were talking about the super kid last time we got together, Connor Griffin, and his major league debut delivered exactly the jolt that the Pirates needed. I mean, and they did it. He did it in front of a sellout crowd. And look, I've never been to PNC Park, but I've heard it is quite a sight. It is a
Beautiful.
very nice ballpark.
Absolutely, one of the true pearls in Major League Baseball. I mean, it truly is baseball. It truly is beautiful. They did it right. So it was home opener. And he, Connor Griffin, who is he? He's number one prospect in all of baseball. He's only 19 years old. He doesn't turn 20 for another few weeks. And in his first at bat, he drives a pitch into the left center field gap for an RBI to score the first run. The Pirates they do win the game. He went 1 for 3, scored a run. So had a really nice home opener. After that, that was kind of all he did offensively over the weekend. But what you loved was the emotion that he showed. He didn't hold it back. I mean, he was beside himself at second base, hands above his head, smile on his face. After the game, same thing. I mean, what you like to see is someone that can celebrate success and maybe not over celebrate. He didn't do anything like that, but he's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows how big of a deal this was. This is something he's been looking at, he's been dreaming of all of his life. And for him to go ahead and get that first hit out of the way in his first at bat with a runner on and driving in a run, pretty cool.
Yeah, and they ended up getting that win 5-4 against Baltimore. They also have what is known as Connor's Corner, the area of the field where he hits it most often. Paul Skeens, I saw a quote from him, and they asked him what is most impressive about Connor Griffin, and he literally rattled off a list of things. He says he's 19, he doesn't cuss, he doesn't miss church, he's married, he loves what he does. He respects his teammates. I mean, he just goes, everything about this kid is impressive. And when you have someone like a Paul Skeens, who's not very old himself, but still has taken on a leadership role in the Pirates clubhouse as he should, to recognize that, I mean, it looks like Connor Griffin is who everybody said he was going to be. And now the real trick in Major League Baseball is not just is I guess living up to those expectations. Right. I don't think he's going to have a hard time handling it, but when you get into the grind, when you're exposed to Major League pitching over time, the book gets out on you. They start looking at your tendencies. The game goes from chess to checkers. And so I think he's got enough people around him to help him, but he may struggle. Even though he's this hot prospect, he may not always be successful.
I hope he does struggle. Not because it's not anything against him, but we see, because this is as much of a can't miss prospect as we've had in baseball in a decade. I mean, they're talking about, Mike Trout. They're talking about Bryce Harper. I mean, that's the caliber of player that, the pressure that's on Connor Griffin. And, even Mike Trout, who, if you look at when he first got called up, he wasn't very good. It wasn't till the next year that he was like second in the MVP. And then he started that historic run through the first 10 years of his career. With Connor, you want to see the growth. And a lot of times I had a conversation with a player and his parents just the other day. That the question was, well, what level should my son be playing at? I said, well, I don't know what level he should be, but I want him on a team that's going to play 500. And I don't want him to be the best player on the team. I don't want him to be the worst player of the team. They go, well, why is that? It's because I want some trials and tribulations. I want him to get his butt kicked a little bit, because that's where we learn. That's where we really excel.
Yeah.
Listen, winning all the time is great, but you don't necessarily learn when you go out there and you just steal everyone's lunch money.
I've seen kids go through, whether it's AAU basketball, select baseball, and they get to their 5th, 6th, 7th grade year around 12, 13, getting into their 14th year when they're getting into high school. And it's almost like these kids peak at such an early age. Or, I mean, you see athletes, it happens to them all the time. I mean, Vince Young, and I mean, this is a football analogy, but he was great at Madison High School. He was great at the University of Texas. He was Rookie of the Year in the NFL. But I really think once he hit that adversity in the NFL, he hadn't really faced that kind of trial. And an athlete that great struggled and ultimately didn't have the NFL career he was supposed to have. And so what he has to do as a young player is lay the groundwork, stay within himself, not try to be everything, but try to be who he is, and hopefully just let all the kinks work themselves out.
What he needs to do is he needs to have some success. He needs to have some failures. And what that's going to do is that's going to be the real gut check. That's going to be the real that's when the real Connor Griffin is going to show up. And listen, most people feel like they have a pretty good idea how he's going to react to this. But when you're a prospect, when you're number one prospect in all of baseball, when you're 19 getting called up to the big leagues, you haven't struggled. There hasn't, maybe you go 0 for every once in a while, but not very often. But, you haven't had any real difficulty in your career. Well, guess what? He is the number one prospect and still is in all of baseball. But he is no longer necessarily the best player on the field all the time. He has met his match getting to the big leagues. And now we have to see what kind of progression he can make to become not just the number one prospect, but becoming a superstar that everyone thinks he can.
Exactly. One of the things I want to do before we close out is what happened in Minnesota? Your homeowners are supposed to be, pomp and circumstance. Baseball's finally back.
Right.
But they had a They had a power outage? What happened?
About an hour before game time. So this is when everybody is filing in. There's thousands of people outside. There's thousands of people already inside, and the whole stadium goes dark. I mean, everything. And listen, you think, well, lights and scoreboard. No, I'm talking cash registers. I'm talking turnstiles. You're talking everything.
And everything's digital. Tickets are digital now.
Everything goes dark. So everyone just had to chill. I think it was out for, it was a little over an hour, like 79 minutes.
Wow.
Game was supposed to start, I think, at like 2:00. It didn't get started until like 3:00. They said it takes a long time for the scoreboard to kind of boot up. It's not something you just flip the switch and it comes back on. So it was, if nothing else, it was an interesting opening day. Probably a little frustrating for some fans, at least the beginning. The Twins did end up winning the game 10-4, so that helps. But it was a little longer day than everyone thought.
Well, what's funny is in their most recent game, the article summary was Minnesota offense experiences a power outage. And I'm like, did they do that on purpose?
Yes, they did.
Referencing the first game.
Yes, they did.
Man. But yeah, you know what? This week we've got this week I do want to start looking at how the divisions are shaping up. I know it's still early in the season. I know we're only 10, maybe 11 games in by the time you're listening to this, but still just start looking at where people are, where we expect them to be. And maybe if there are any surprises that you might see on the horizon in the early baseball season. So got any final words for us, Mike?
Hey, again, I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter weekend, Resurrection weekend. And, listen, we're here. We need your subscribers, friends, family. Let everybody know. And if you have any questions, reach out to us on X.
That's right. This has been a great show. Back to the Bullpen, sponsored by the Locked On Network, the #1 sports podcasting network on the planet. So from myself, from Mike, and everybody here at Back to the Bullpen, thank y'all for tuning in. And you know what? Go out to a game, get the Game Time app, go buy a ticket, and play ball.
Adios.